today was a review filed by Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim under Rule 137 of the Federal Court Rules to review the decision of the Federal Court which convicted and sentenced him to 5 years jail. Datuk Gopal Sriram was the one who did the arguments in full, and in essence what we are saying is that the decision of the Federal Court is an injustice to Datuk Seri Anwar. They made serious errors in the decision, and these errors basically constitute an injustice to him, and that is why the purpose of the review today. So a few examples of such injustices. For example, the Federal Court used so-called previous encounters with Saiful, which were explicitly or clearly ruled out as inadmissible in the High Court, but the Federal Court went and took that into account to hold Saiful as a credible witness. So this is another clear example of a serious breach of law and which caused an injustice to Datuk Seri Anwar. And this is one of the key arguments we put forward today. And we noticed that the SFC had no answer. The SFC had no actual answer to the argument today. And in the same way, Datuk Gopal Sriram explained how the key aspect of the DNA defense that was raised by Datuk Seri Anwar's lawyers was completely, misunderstood by the Federal Court and never dealt with properly by the Federal Court. And this is again another injustice, which we can see clearly in the judgment. For example, the fact that the samples were kept for almost 56 hours, the samples from the incident date to the date they were taken at the hospital was about almost 56 hours, and then they were kept for another 40 hours by Jude Pereira in a filing cabinet when the doctors told him to keep it in the freezer. That would have made the samples deteriorate, and you should see a DNA profile which shows very high level of degradation. But both our expert and the prosecution expert said these samples which were shown in court were pristine. They have literally no degradation, which clearly showed therefore the DNA profiles producing in court were very likely not the samples taken for Saiful. In other words, there was tampering. And this is also confirmed by the fact that Jude Pereira cut open the bag of samples, and which the High Court judge rejected his explanation. So these were amongst the examples of serious errors, what we lawyers call manifest errors committed by the Federal Court, and on which we say the review must take place.
Why did the court have going to reserve judgment for a later date?
Yes.
How long do you expect that to take? I understand it could be months.
That's really hard to predict. Yeah, I mean, given just on the previous hearing when we applied to bring in primary resource evidence, the court took months just to rule on that. So we don't know how long it will take. Right? As you say, it could take months.
And it's been described as the last Anwar Ibrahim's last legal bid to cut short his sentence or to be freed from his conviction. Would you agree with that? Does he have any more legal avenues?
In terms of strict legal avenues, yes, this is probably the last, legal attempt.